A very good morning to all students to this course Micro Engineering for the semester 7 BE EXTC course. First of all, I would like to welcome to all the students who have enrolled themselves into my team and those who are curious to learn about micro engineering subject in their 7th semester for the final year course. So I hope that you have enrolled into this particular team and now each and every material that we are going to upload into this team is available to you. And throughout this course, this team is going to cater for the needs of all the students for providing all the resource material that we will be developing throughout this micro engineering course. So I once again welcome to you all people to my team of micro engineering subject. Let us begin with introduction to micro engineering. The agenda for today's lecture is in front of you. So what we are going to cover in this lecture is in front of you right now. So first of all, we will talk about the syllabus review. Okay. So the syllabus is being prescribed by the University of Mumbai, and let us spend some time to explore what is the syllabus and what are the different evaluation methodologies and module wise course content into it. Right. So I will open the syllabus. So this is the prescribed syllabus of the University of Mumbai. You can visualize this. This is a PDF file mentioning the syllabus of 7th semester Electronics and Telecommunication course. Okay. So this course is developed in choice-based credit and grading system, and it is ineffective from academic year 2016 and 17. Right. So your batch is the second batch to come across this revised syllabus of revision 2016, right? So the subject that we are talking about is this particular first subject, right? Here I will highlight our subject, that is a micro engineering. As per university syllabus, it has been allocated 4 theory hours, okay, and the credit assigned for the 4 theory hours are 4. Okay, so this scheme indicates the course code of the subject. The course code of the theory subject for this micro engineering course is ECC 701. And actually, as per syllabus point of view, in a week, 4 theory lectures are been allocated and the credits are assigned total 4. Now we have a practical session also for the same course, and we have a different coding for the practical, that is ECL 701, and we have the lab for the same subject, which is highlighted here with the name micro engineering lab. Okay. So week wise, we need to spend 2 hours for the practical session, right? And it has a credit of 1 assigned to it. Okay. So let us talk about examination scheme. Now I will again highlight this particular our course. Our course is getting evaluated as per the examination point of view by conducting 2 separate term tests, each of carrying 20 marks. And at the end of semester, we will be considering the average of these 20 marks, right? And when you appear for the final end semester examination, you are going to write a paper of 3 hours consisting of 80 marks end semester examination mark. Okay. So this 80 marks and the 20 marks average of the two term test, it will totally has a weightage of 100 marks. Okay. And next is the practical, that is ECL 701, the lab session of the same. I will highlight over here. We have a term work which have been allocated a marks 25, and at the end of semester we have the oral as well as the practical examination for the same subject, which again carries a 25 marks. So in total for laboratory, please remember we have the total marking of 50. consisting of 25 marks for the term work and 25 marks for the oral and practical evaluation. So the term work will consist of at least 10 different graded experiments. Okay, so which we will be performing online using virtual laboratory. Okay, and if it happens, then we can rejoin the institute and we can conduct some of the practical physically over there in the lab. Okay, so here it is expected that we need to at least complete 10 experiments. Okay, and these experiments will be graded and you will be given marks out of 25 based on your grade performance. So this is just the evaluation methodology and the marking scheme for the micro engineering subject. Okay, so we covered the syllabus review and the evaluation methodology. Now let us go into the details and see what this subject is going to contain module wise. Okay, I will come to the actual syllabus of this subject. Now here is the detailed syllabus prescribed by the university. Now as usual, it mentions the evaluation method and the examination scheme. Okay, the prerequisite required for this particular subject are mentioned over here. You need a background information or the knowledge about the electromagnetic engineering, antenna and radio wave propagation theory, and communication engineering. So I hope that all these three subjects are already covered to you people in your second year and third year course of engineering. Okay. So some of the concept of electromagnetic engineering, radio wave and propagation, antenna theory, and basic communication engineering are required in order to understand this particular subject. So I hope that these are the prerequisite subject, and I hope that you have gone through these courses earlier in your lower semesters, right? Now I will define what are the broad objective of this course. Now there are three broad objective of the course. So why this course is designed for? This course is designed to learn the fundamentals of the microwave system. Okay, so this is the first objective. This course objective, second course objective is to make system level design decision. As an RF engineer, when you learn this particular subject, at the end of learning this particular subject, you will be able to make certain decisions regarding design of a microwave system. Okay, so this is the second objective of learning this course. The third objective is to learn the characteristics of passive and active microwave devices. So these are the broad objectives and the outcomes are also explained over here. So what will happen after successful completion of this particular course? So what you people are able to do. So the first thing is you can characterize the device at the high frequency. Now, please remember these course outcomes are also taking into account the significance of whatever you people are going to learn in the laboratory sessions also. Okay? Then you people can able to design and analyze the microwave circuit. You can design amplifier and oscillator in the microwave frequency, and you will be able to demonstrate your own skill in planning, designing, and deployment of microwave networks. So these are the outcomes which have been specified by the university. Okay, so let us go into the module wise content over here. Now let us discuss the module wise course content. Now here, this is the module wise course content. As per general rule, we remember that all of the subjects that you will be studying, they are going to contain total 6 different modules, not more than that. And this is a common structure among all of the subjects. So here also we have total 6 modules or 6 chapters. The first chapter is an introduction to microwave. So that within few minutes we will be starting with. So what we are going to study? We are going to study all the basic and fundamentals, characteristic properties, advantages and application of microwaves. Then we will devote our few time to study the scattering parameters and their formulation. We will study some of the special type of a transmission line like strip lines and microstrip lines. And then the important part of the first module is the design of a impedance matching circuit. So this is a very important part of the module number 1. Module number 2 or chapter 2 is devoted for waveguides, rectangular and circular type of waveguides, their construction, and here we are going to have a derivation for modal analysis. Okay, and then we are going to see the different types of a passive waveguide based junction devices like microwave tubes, hybrid rings, directional couplers. Okay, and some of the ferrite devices like ferrite isolators, gyrators, and circulators. Now, the third chapter is going to be devoted for generation of a microwaves. Okay, so please remember microwaves are being generated by two different techniques. First, by making use of vacuum based tubes, so that we are going to study in the module number 3. So here different types of tubes we are going to study in order to generate the microwaves at the desired characteristics. So the tubes like reflextron, helix traveling wave tube, magnetron, reflectclystron, backward wave oscillator, all these different types of tubes we are going to study in our module number 3. Module number 4 is again the generation of the microwaves but with a second technique. Now the microwaves can also be generated by using the semiconductor devices. So here we are going to study the different types of microwave semiconductor devices which are used to generate microwave signal. Okay. Then chapter 5 is more or less deals with different types of measurements of microwave parameters. Okay. And finally, module number 6, which is actually a new part. Module number 5 and 6 both are actually new added part in our syllabus. Earlier in our old syllabus, we have this module number 5 and module number 6 replaced with the radar theory. Okay. Now the radar theory has been removed from your syllabus, the new syllabus, and they have added module number 5 as a measurement chapter and module number 6 as a microwave integrated circuit. So in the last module, we are going to see what are the different materials and what are the different techniques to fabricate microwave integrated circuits. So similar to the integrated circuit which operate at low frequency, right? So these are what brief about the module wise content of the syllabus. Module number 1, introduction and impedance matching circuit. Module number 2 is a waveguides and passive devices. Third module and fourth module, they deal with generation of a microwave by making use of a tubes and by making use of a semiconductor devices. Module number 5 mainly deals with measurement of a microwave parameters. And then finally, module number 6, we are going to study the different types of manufacturing process of microwave integrated circuit and the material used for it, right? So these are what the basic of and in brief the explanation for the content of the syllabus. Now let us go ahead. Now let us see what are the recommended textbook and reference books which are available in order to study this particular subject. Now these are the reference and textbooks which are mentioned in the university syllabus. Here we have the textbook mentioned over here, Samuel Liao. Now this particular first textbook is mostly useful to study model number 4, that is the microwave semiconductor devices. Okay, so Samuel Liao, microwave devices and circuit. This particular recommended textbook is mostly used to cover the entire model number 4. Next recommended textbook, or we could say it is a Bible of microwave engineering. Now here the second book is more or less very commonly used in the study material, that is a David Poser book. Okay, so all these textbooks are available in our library. You can go to that library and we can refer to these books and you can even borrow these books. Okay, so third book is a Matthew Radmanish, and actually this third recommended textbook we hardly use because it involves the design of amplifiers and oscillators. Okay, and the fourth is important textbook is Annapurna Das and Shishir Das by Microwave Engineering, and this textbook is also good for covering the more or less whole of the syllabus. Okay, and there are reference books mentioned over here, that is a Polin and Devendra Mishra. Okay, so apart from this textbooks and reference books, I would like to mention over here that even I have published a recommended textbook in my past to cater the need for the old syllabus microwave and radar engineering for your seniors. So this book I published in 2015. Okay, so the details of my books are on the PowerPoint over here. Okay, so I published this particular book The title of my book was Microwave and Radar Engineering, and it was published in year 2015 by a publisher, Synergy Knowledge Maker at the Mumbai. Actually, this particular book will fulfill the need for studying of the microwave engineering, and actually this was designed for the earlier old course. But what I want you people is, if you are interested, you can purchase this particular book, or if you want, the soft copies will be distributed to you later on. And this book, which have been published by me, will cover entirely up to chapter 4. Okay. So chapter number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are entirely covered in my book. Okay. So I will give a separate notes on microwave measurements and microwave integrated circuits later on module number 5 and 6. So what I want is, if you want, you can download that book, or you can purchase that particular book, or get a soft copy later on. Okay. And I'm sure that my book is going to cover model number 1, model number 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So as on when we finish a particular module, the related notes of those books will be distributed to you. Okay. So within a few minutes, we will be going through that particular book in order to start the module number 1. Okay. So I recommend that if you want, you can have the copies of the same book, and you can use it to prepare first 4 chapters from this particular book. Okay. Coming back again, now we will directly put in our hand into the start of the first model. Okay. So the book that I was talking about, so I will show that particular book now. So I will open my book. Okay, so this is my own book which I published in 2015. Okay, so if you want, you can refer the same book in order to prepare first 4 chapters. Okay, so the remaining 2 chapters, that is chapter number 5 and 6, that I will give you the notes later on. Okay, so this is that soft copy of the book. So the some of the contents of this book I will distribute to you people later on. Let me maximize it a little bit so that we can visualize it clearly. Okay. So the title of the book is Microwave and Radar Engineering. Now please remember, in order to study the first 4 chapters, I will be making extensive use of my own book, because as on when whatever the contents of the syllabus are required, those are sufficiently covered in this particular book. So I will use my own book in order to study and in order to deliver you the content of the lectures. Okay, so let us start with first chapter, Introduction to Microwaves. So I will be explaining you the introduction of the microwaves from my own book. So let us start with chapter number 1. I will scroll it down and I will open the chapter number 1. Okay, Fundamentals of Microwave and Field Theory. So please remember, we are not going to take the rigorous session on the electromagnetic principle, but as on when it is required, we will be going through it very briefly. Okay. So first of all, let us define what we mean by microwaves, the definition of microwaves. Please remember, a microwave is said to be an electromagnetic wave which is roughly having the wavelength in the range of 3 millimeter to 1 meter. Okay. So any electromagnetic signal which has a wavelength into the range of 3 millimeter to 1 meter can be called as a microwave signal. Okay. So if you recall, in the orientation program, I have shown you the diagram on the PPT. Okay. So there we mention a typical range of a microwaves. Microwaves are located well beyond the RF signal, but below the infrared region. Okay. So any particular signal frequency which ranges in the frequency range of zero point 0.3 gigahertz, or you can call it as a roughly 300 megahertz to 100 gigahertz, we can call that signal as a microwave. Okay, so this is just a rough definition of microwave signal. Now please remember, from author to author, the definition of exact range of a microwave could tend to vary. Okay, but this is a general slot in which we are going to refer that particular frequency as a microwave. So you just remember that any particular signal frequency which ranges into 300 megahertz to 100 gigahertz, that can be called as a microwave frequency. Okay, and roughly the wavelength of microwave frequency ranges from 1 millimeter to 1 meter. Okay, so let us go ahead and explain what are the typical characteristics that the microwave signal is going to possess. Okay, so the typical characteristics of a microwave are listed over here. Okay, so one by one, let us start explaining the characteristics of a microwave. So first characteristic of the microwave, as they do possess a very small wavelength. Okay, so why they do possess a small wavelength? Because we know that their operating frequency is high, and we know the relationship between the frequency and wavelength. Okay, so as frequency increases from this particular relation, the wavelength is going to decrease. Okay, so as the microwaves are being operated from 300 megahertz to 100 gigahertz, at this high frequency range, the wavelength becomes very small. Okay, so the wavelength of the microwaves are very small as compared to RF signal. They are operating at a high frequency. Okay. The third important property or the characteristic is they can freely propagate into the space, and they will vary sinusoidally when they propagate through a free space. So this is a very important characteristic of the microwave. Now when microwaves are generated, they will start propagating in a free space. Okay, and when they propagate through the free space, they tend to vary sinusoidally. Okay, so their energy, the field energy, is going to vary sinusoidally into the free space. Okay, and as they propagate through the space, we already know that there is an attenuation of the signal that will take place no matter what kind of a signal it is. Okay, so at a microwave frequency, the important thing is when they propagate through a free space, they will possess a very, or they will occur with a very small attenuation. Okay, and they can penetrate deeply into the dielectric material. Okay, so here you need to know what do you mean by dielectric. So you know that already what is the difference between a dielectric material, conductor material, and insulator material. Okay, so as on when the microwave propagates through a dielectric, they can penetrate deeply. But please remember, the microwave cannot penetrate pure conductors. Okay, so that we are going to explain next. That is in a property or a characteristic. So the microwaves are getting reflected from the good conductors. Or in other hand, we can say that microwave cannot propagate deeply into the conductor, but rather they will get reflected back. So we would say that when a microwave gets strike over the good conductors, maximum reflection will take place and there is a very low amount of a penetration of the signal. Okay? Reflection and transmission will happen with the microwaves, and these reflection and transmission properties we can utilize in our communication application. Okay? So next important characteristic of the microwave is as it going to carry the energy in the form of a field. The fields are always electric and magnetic field, and these two fields are always oriented perpendicular to each other in the given microwave. Okay, and whenever we take the ratio of magnitude of electric to magnetic wave energies, it will always evaluate to intrinsic impedance. So we already know from the theory of a wave theory propagation in electromagnetics that if we take the ratio of electric field to the magnetic field in the free space, it will always evaluate to a value 125, or the value is fixed, that is 377 ohm, which we know as intrinsic impedance of the free space. Okay, where capital E stands for electric field, which is measured in volts per meter, and capital H is the magnetic field, which is measured in amperes per meter. Okay, so next important property is microwave has the ability to carry the power. Okay, so one important thing we discussed during our orientation program is as we make use of higher and higher frequency signal, the power carrying capability of the signal tend to increase. So microwaves are not doubt for it. So by using microwave, you can transfer the power wirelessly from one position to another position, because the microwaves being operated at a high frequency, they are capable to carry the power from one place to another place. Mainly this power is a ratio of product, okay, and this product is a product of electric field to the magnetic field, okay. And please remember, micros can carry power, so that's why they are useful in many of the applications. Microwave cannot propagate through the conductors, but the current can propagate. Okay, so microwaves are normally studied by means of a field theory and not by circuit theory. So what is field theory and circuit theory, that we will see later on. Microwave can propagate through the insulator, but the current cannot propagate because the current is a circuit phenomena, and microwaves we normally analyze as the field phenomena, right? Next important characteristic of the microwave is the microwave can lead to atomic and molecular resonating properties as on when they pass through the matter. Okay? So microwaves are being a electromagnetic signal operating at a high frequency. Whenever it comes into the contact with any particular matter, they can set up atomic and molecular resonating properties within that matter. Okay, so actually this particular property is used in material inspection, okay, and material testing. Next important characteristic is microwaves, whenever they propagate into the free space, they will always propagate in a straight line distance, and that's why most of the line of sight LOS propagation communication system, they are going to make use of a microwave. Okay, so as microwaves, they propagate into the free space in a straight line, so this property makes them suitable for line of sight communication application. Microwaves can be very efficiently radiated and very efficiently received by making use of antennas. Okay, so as on when we want to generate and whenever we want to transmit and receive the microwave signal, that can be easily accomplished by using antennas. Okay, microwaves cannot propagate deeply into the water for the longer distance because the wavelength is very small, and microwaves are not suitable in order to establish a water-based communication. Okay, now let us explain, next slide, characteristic of a microwave that we discussed. Now let us discuss what are the benefits that the microwave is going to offer to us. Now the advantage or the benefit that the microwave is going to offer to us are listed over here. Okay. So one by one, let us explain what are the different advantages that the microwave is going to offer to us. First advantage is, we already know that it is being operated at a very high frequency, and the relation between the operating frequency and the bandwidth is that higher is operating frequency, higher is the bandwidth associated with the signal. So as we already know that the microwave is being operated at a very high frequency, right? So definitely it is being associated with having a very large bandwidth, and that makes it suitable for wireless application. Okay. Second thing, as the frequency is very high, the directivity possessed by the microwave signal is very high. Okay. And this property is very much useful in designing antennas. Third property, we know that the design of antenna is solely based on operating wavelength. Microwaves are being operated at a very high frequency. That means the wavelengths are reduced. Okay. And the antennas which are used to generate and transmit and receive the microwave signal are very small, because all antennas we know those are based on the dimension of the operating wavelength. So as frequency of microwaves is very high, the wavelengths associated with them is very small. And that's why the antenna size requirement, whenever we want to generate and transmit and receive the microwave, the requirement of the antenna size will reduce. So that is the biggest advantage that we will be getting when we make use of microwave. Next is advantage is low fading effect. The fading effect means it is as good as the attenuation of the signal. So whenever the microwave propagates through the space, attenuation will take place because attenuation is inherent. The attenuation is taking place because of variety of different reasons, like scattering effect, like reflection, refraction, and all these are the contributors to fade the signal. Okay, so signal fading is nothing but to reduce the amount of received signal at the receiver. Okay, so when we make use of a microwaves in wireless communication, please remember microwaves will provide us low fading effect, and that is very much advantageous and helpful for us to set up a wireless communication. Microwaves are effectively used in satellite communication as they can easily propagate through ionosphere. Okay, so as this property is very much important, microwaves are a special choice to set up a satellite communication. Radar communication and radiation therapy also going to make use of microwaves. Now, I would like to tell you a point over here that originally when the microwaves were developed, those are used in radar communication only. And especially the radars are originally meant to be utilized in military application. And later on, the radar is being deployed and it is being utilized in commercial as well as in domestic application. Okay, so original use of the radar was in military, and the radar is going to make use of extensively microwave frequency for its operation. And we already know that the television transmission and reception that is going to make use of extensively the microwave frequency, right? Now let us say what is the band designation of the microwaves. So the entire spectrum of the microwaves, right from 300 megahertz to 100 gigahertz, right? Actually, this is the range. So this range can be divided over to these different frequency bands. Okay, so 300 megahertz. So it is zero point 0.3 gigahertz. So actually, from VHF range, the actual designation of a microwave frequency subband is going to start. Okay, so zero point 0.3 gigahertz means 300 megahertz. So actually, the entire microwave is divided into small band spectrum, okay, starting from the VHF range. Okay, so high frequency 0.003 to 0.03 gigahertz. Now the microwave will start from high frequency onwards from VHF, and it will go along and it will cover up to 300 gigahertz. Okay, so actually the 300 gigahertz is the lower range of the millimeter wave. So if we actually see the definition of the microwave will cover the band from VHF to lower of the millimeter up to Ka band. Ka stands for K band above and Ku stands for K band under. Okay, so this is a particular band designation for the microwave. And here in the second column and third column, the frequency range and the wavelength range is indicated to you people. Okay, so these are the frequency range starting from the VHF to the lower to the millimeter. Okay, so please remember millimeter wave is a different, which is higher than the microwave frequency. So lower to the millimeter up to 40 to 100 gigahertz, you can say roughly the microwave has its upper limit. Okay, so the lower limit starts from VHF and the upper limit for the microwave will get extended up to below millimeter region. Okay, and you can note down what is the wavelength of the microwave in the meter. Okay, so it normally varies from 1 millimeter to 1 meter. Okay, so these are the different band designation in order to subdivide the microwave spectrum into some smaller regions starting from VHF, then UHF. UHF stands for ultra high frequency. Then we have L band, S band, C band, X band, then KU. KU stands for K under. And the next band is K, and the last band is KA, which stands for K above. Okay. So now let us say what different applications are going to make use of a micros for their operation. So this is a very important parameter. During the orientation program, I also highlighted you with certain diagram the different usages of the microwaves with the different systems. So these are the applications of the microwaves. So the list is very huge because microwaves are being used in variety of different types of application. So some of the applications which extensively make use of a microwaves are listed over here. They are used in satellite communication, tropospheric communication system, telephone and wireless networks, television and radio broadcast. They are used in wireless police communication, road safety, right? Radars are being used, in order to control the road safety and in order to control the speed of a vehicle. Okay, so there all that system is going to work on a microwave signal. Microwave are being extensively used in our mobile and cellular phone communication. Okay, so we are using our cell phones. So all microwave is there, which makes it possible to make the phone available for us in order to communicate wirelessly. Civil aviation and railway communication also they are going to make use of a microwaves for their operation. The next and important application is weather forecasting application. Okay, in order to predict the behavior of the atmosphere, okay, and of the weather, we are going to make use of a microwaves. Microwaves are extensively used in radar, and the radars are used not only in just military communication but also in the domestic as well as industrial application. The big and best use of the microwave is illustrated when we make use of a GPS system, global positioning system, and navigation. We already know that the GPS is a system which is used to locate exactly a particular matter over to the surface of Earth. Okay, so we are going to make use of a satellite communication, and please remember the satellite is going to make use of a microwaves in order to implement this application. Then next we have a very typical application of a microwave into the studying of the property of the matter. Okay, as we already discussed that when microwave interact with a matter, okay, so it will set up the resonating properties. So this particular study of the microwaves where we are going to use it for inspection of a material is known as a spectroscopy. Radar, sorry, the microwaves are also being used in material testing, and they are used to calculate the thickness as well as detection of any particular flaws in the surfaces. Microwaves are extensively used in industrial heating application, food processing and chemical industries. They are also used in mining application, drying of food items, and in printing industries. Microwaves, when we see the best example that is available in our kitchen, that is, we are extensively going to make use of a microwave ovens. So there we see the typical application of microwaves in form of heating purpose. So the heating application of the microwaves is used in microwave ovens to cook our food. Medical equipment also they are going to make use of a microwaves, and certain radiation therapies also they are going to make use of a microwave for their operation. Okay, so these are what the definition of the microwaves, the properties of the microwaves, the sub band designation of the microwaves, and we also discussed a variety of different applications of the microwave. Okay, please remember, if you observe here and there surrounding us, we will find all the different types of varieties of application which are extensively making use of a microwave. Okay, so microwaves are everywhere in our surrounding, and without microwaves simply the wireless communication cannot take place. Okay, so please remember microwave engineering is very important subject, and here in this particular subject we are going to establish some of the concept, and in order to visualize the effect and the study of the microwave engineering, you should be able to study it and you should be able to use it in order to design microwave systems. So that is the aim of this particular learning of this syllabus of this particular subject, microwave engineering. Now let us go ahead and see the Maxwell's four equation. Actually, it is already dealt to you people when you studied the electromagnetic engineering in your second year. We will just revise the concept of electromagnetic theory by studying the four popularly known as a Maxwell's equation over here. Okay, so we are not going into the details of again the derivation and theory, but we will revise the concept of Maxwell's equation. Okay, because I hope that by studying the Maxwell's equation, it will be beneficial to us in order to understand the boundary condition. Okay, now here on this particular page, I have listed out the Maxwell equation in differential form for a time varying field. Okay, so the Maxwell's equations are not the equations which have been developed by Maxwell, but he has unified the different equations together. Okay, so Ampere's law, the Faraday's law, and the Gauss law he has combined, and he formulated four different sets of equations. So actually these equations were developed by different people like Faraday, Gauss, and Ampere. He unified all these equations together, and he explained the behavior of how the electromagnetic field is going to get interacting with whenever it is imposed with certain condition. And he has clearly explained how these mathematical equations are going to satisfy the behavior of the electromagnetic signal. Okay. So we already know that this is the Ampere circuital law, first law. Second law is the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction given by equation 1.10. The equation 1.11 and equation 1.12, they will tell you the Gauss law. Okay, so Gauss law for electric field and the Gauss law for magnetic field. Okay, so all these entities are known to you. We are just revising the concept of Maxwell equation, right? And we already know how to derive the wave equation. Okay? We already know in the electromagnetic theory in your second year the divergence theorem, Stokes theorems, and all those things. Okay? Now here it is important to us to understand what is the boundary condition. Again, we are not going to have any particular derivation, but we will revise you the concept of a boundary condition. Okay, so this is a table that will give you all the basic of differential form and integral form of Maxwell equation. Okay, so actually the Maxwell's equations are the set of four equations which are taken from the different people, like two laws are taken for the electric field and magnetic field from the Gauss theorem. One law is taken from the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, and the remaining law is the Ampere circuit law. Okay. Now here, please remember the equations are same, but these are expressed in a differential and in integral equation form. Okay. Now let us see what is the boundary condition and why it is important to study. Okay. So what we will do is we will simplify the explanation, and I will explain you what is the significance of applying a boundary condition. Okay. So though the diagrams are there and some mathematical equations are there, we are not going to go into the details, but rather we will just get, or we will just explain you the significance of boundary condition. Right. Now what is boundary condition? Now see this particular figure over here. The boundary is going to get formed whenever there is an interface of two different mediums. So on my left hand side, I have a medium number 1, and on my right hand side, I have a medium number 2. Now, the medium number 1 is a different. It could be a water, it could be a solid object. Okay. The medium number 2 is again different. So whenever two different mediums are separated, a boundary is supposed to be hypothetically produced between these two mediums, which is actually separating them from each other. Okay? So this hatched line is indicating a separating boundary between medium number 1 and medium number 2. Please remember how to characterize the medium number 1 and 2. Both mediums are characterized by certain properties. These properties are epsilon, we call it as a permittivity. Then we have mu, that is a permeability. And then we have a sigma over here, which is a conductivity. So you take any particular medium, whether that medium is a solid medium, liquid medium, or in the form of a gaseous medium. All these mediums can be conveniently described for their properties with a three parameters. The first is a permittivity indicated with epsilon. Second is a permeability, and third is a conductivity. I hope that you already know the meaning of permittivity, permeability, and conductivity. Okay. So similarly, the medium number 2 has a different values of permittivity, permeability, and conductivity. Right. So these two medium, when they are separated from each other, a boundary is supposed to get formed. Okay. So let us see how this boundary is going to behave whenever electromagnetic field is incident on it. So why we are going to study the boundary condition is that we are going to study the boundary condition in order to see how this electromagnetic field is going to behave when it start entering second medium from the first medium. So suppose an electromagnetic field is traveling from medium number 1 to medium number 2. Okay, so there will happen certain changes because as medium number 1 and medium number 2 are separate, they are different object, different medium, they are going to change certain property of the electromagnetic signal which is passing from medium number 1 to 2. So in order to study what changes will take place into the properties of the electromagnetic signal when it propagates from medium number 1 to medium number 2, boundary conditions are going to help us. Okay, so boundary conditions are used in order to predict the behavior of the electromagnetic signal when it passes from medium number 1 to medium number 2, provided these two mediums are different with characteristics. Okay, so here the boundary condition is applied. Now in order to apply the boundary condition, again we are going to make use of some of the equation of the Maxwell's set, right? And we are going to evaluate. Okay, so here one important thing that we are going to find, that is the first boundary condition. Now the first boundary condition, now forget about these mathematical derivations and setting of the equation. We just remember that there are two mediums which are separated with a boundary, and an electromagnetic signal is passing from medium number 1 to medium number 2. It is going towards medium number 2. Okay, and we want to establish the boundary condition. Okay, so by studying the boundary condition, we can predict the behavior of the transmission of that electromagnetic signal. Okay, so when we analyze that by making use of certain equations which are available in Maxwell set, what we come to the conclusion is that the conclusion is given by equation 1.48. What it shows is ET1 is equal to ET2. Now you already know that E stands for electric field intensity and T1 is standing for tangential component. Now please remember, tangential component is the component of the electromagnetic signal which is parallel to the boundary. Now see how the boundary is. The boundary is in the plane of the paper, right? So the tangential component is parallel to the boundary, please remember. So when the electromagnetic signal passes from medium number 1 to 2, it is resolved into two components. The first component is a tangential component, second component is a normal component. So these components of electric field are shown over here, right? So ET1 and ET2, they stands for tangential components which are parallel to the boundary surface on the both medium side. So ET1 is a tangential component in medium number 1. ET2 is a tangential component in the medium number 2 which is parallel to the boundary. Please remember. Always remember, tangential component is always parallel to the boundary. Okay, so in this way. And similarly, we have the normal component. The normal component is indicated with the suffix n. Okay, so when we resolve the electric field component along the normal direction, we have two components, one in medium number 1 and second in medium number 2. So first of all, the law of boundary condition, it tells that the tangential component of electric field component is going to be continuous. Okay, so this we say as a first boundary condition. So what we observe, when the electromagnetic signal passes from medium number 1 to medium number 2, the tangential component in medium number 1 is same as that of the tangential component in medium number 2. So that means, in other words, the tangential component of electric field will not change when the electromagnetic signal passes from medium number 1 to medium number 2. That is the first and very important rule of boundary condition. The condition is tangential component of electric field is going to remain continuous. Continuous means ET1 is equal to ET2, and that's why this equation is over here. Okay. Now let us go ahead and see what is the second boundary condition on the similar basis. Now the second boundary condition on the similar basis is indicated over here in equation 1.50. What it says, the electric field density of the normal component is going to remain continuous. So dN1 is equal to dN2. So this is the second boundary condition, and what it specifies, that the normal component of electric field displacement is going to be continuous across the boundary from medium number 1 to medium number 2. So D simply stands for electric field displacement, right? So electric field displacement for the normal component is going to be continuous across the boundary. So that's why dN1 is equal to dN2. Okay. So then the third boundary condition we will come across for the normal component of magnetic field now, which is given with equation 1.51 on the similar basis to equation 1.50. On the similar basis, the third boundary condition is given as Bn1 is equal to Bn2, where n stands for normal component. Okay, 1 stands for medium number 1, 2 stands for medium number 2. And what is B over here? B is magnetic surface charge density. Okay, so magnetic surface charge density is going to be continuous provided there is not going to be any surface charge. If the surface charge is 0, then the magnetic field density is going to be continuous across the normal component. This is the third law. And the fourth and final law is given by equation 1.53. The difference of the tangential component of magnetic field is going to be differed with the amount of surface charge current density. Okay, all these four different boundary conditions are summarized below over here. Okay, now here, in order to summarize all these boundary conditions, these are the boundary conditions applicable for all the different types of interface which has been generated by separating two different medium. Okay, so this theory is applicable of applying the boundary condition to all the two different mediums which is separated by a certain finite boundary. Okay, so this boundary condition can be considered with respect to two different aspects. Okay, so here we just considered during the explanation that the two mediums are different. Okay, what if the two mediums are same? For example, medium number 1 is a dielectric material, medium number 2 is also a dielectric material. So this is one case. And the second case is, say, medium number 1 is a dielectric material and medium number 2 is not a dielectric, but rather it is a conductor. So these are the two common situations where we deal with propagation of electromagnetic signal. Normally, we are interested to analyze the boundary condition which is formed between two dielectric materials. Medium number 1 and medium number 2 both are dielectric. We call this as dielectric to dielectric interface. On the other hand, the second case, the first medium is a dielectric and the second medium is a conductor. So at that time, this interface behavior is different and we call it as a dielectric to conductor interface. Okay, so the rules of boundary conditions are established for these two different cases. First case is a dielectric to dielectric interface and second case is a dielectric to conductor interface. And the boundary conditions are summarized for these two different cases in this particular table. Okay, so if you see, more or less in dielectric interface, tangential component is a continuous, electric field component, normal component is going to be continuous. Similarly, magnetic field as well as magnetic displacement all are continuous when we consider dielectric to dielectric interface. Okay, now when I replace the second medium with a perfect conductor, that means the first medium is a dielectric, second medium is a pure conductor. At that time, the equations of boundary condition will get modified and these are given over here. Tangential component is 0 in the second medium. Okay, the electric field displacement normal component is going to contain the charge. Okay, and the third equation, magnetic tangential component, is going to be same as that of the surface charge current, and there is a no magnetic normal field component in the in the conductor part. So the same equation, so these equations are generalized for the dielectric to dielectric interface, and these are modified when I replace dielectric second medium with a conductor, and this equation will get modified to this. Okay. So more about these boundary conditions we are going to revisit again when we start applying analysis to evaluate the modes in rectangular waveguide in our model number 2. So when we come across model number 2 in the rectangular waveguide, and when we start analyzing the derivation for evaluating the modes in the rectangular waveguide, at that time we are again going to revisit and we are going to make use of this boundary condition. Okay, so I hope that a little bit information about the boundary condition is known to you people. Okay, and here we started with the explanation of the entire syllabus, and then we started with explaining you the basic fundamentals of a microwave engineering. We define what do we mean by microwaves. We define what is the range of the microwave, and we discussed the important characteristics of the microwaves, benefits of the microwave, and then we discussed the variety of different applications that makes going to make use of a microwave. And then we discussed a revision about the Maxwell's equation and what is the significance of using boundary condition in order to determine the electromagnetic field behavior. Okay, so with this I hope this is the first lecture, and here I will stop, and later on we'll go into the details and we will see the transmission line, and we are going to study the matching circuit design example later in our successive lecture. So after this particular lecture number 1, in the our next lecture we are going to see the transmission line concept, and then we will study the scattering parameters, and then towards the end we will study the different special type of a transmission line, and then the important part that maximum time that we are going to spend our time for the chapter number 1 is to design the impedance matching circuit. So here for the first lecture I will stop, and in our next lecture we will continue with the transmission line theory. Thank you very much.